The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. Sacred history presents many illustrations of the results of true education. It presents many noble examples of men whose characters were formed under divine direction, men whose lives were blessing to their fellow men, and who stood in the world as representatives of God. Among these are Joseph, and Daniel, Moses, Elisha, and Paul, the greatest statesman, the wisest legislator, one of the most faithful of reformers, and except him who spoke as never man spake, the most illustrious teachers that this world has known. In early life, just as they were passing from youth to manhood, Joseph and Daniel were separated from their homes and carried captives to hidden lands. Especially was Joseph subject to the temptation that attained great changes of fusion. In his father's home, a tenderly cherished child, in the house of Potiphar, a slave, then a confidant and companion, a man of affairs, educated by study, observation, contact with men, in Pharaoh's dungeon, a prisoner of state, condemned unjustly, without hope of vindication or prospect of release, called at great crisis to the leadership of the nation, what enabled him to preserve his integrity. No one can stand upon a lofty height without danger, as the tempest that leaves unharmed the flower of the valley uproots the tree upon the mountain top. So do fierce temptation that leave untouched the lowly in life, ashamed. Those who stand in the world's high places of success and honor, but Joseph bore alike the test of adversity and of prosperity. The same fidelity was manifest in the palace of the Pharaohs as in the prisoner's cell. In his childhood, Joseph had been taught the love and fear of God. Often, in his father's tent under the Syrian stars, he had been told the story of the night vision at Bethel, of the ladder from heaven to earth, and the descending and ascending angels, and of him who from the throne above revealed himself to Jacob. He had been told the story of the conflict beside the Jabbok, when renouncing cherished sins, Jacob stood conqueror and received the title of prince with God. A shepherd boy, tending his father's flocks, Joseph's pure and simple life had favored the development of both physical and mental power. By communion with God through nature and the study of the great truths handed down as sacred trust from father to son, he had gained strength of mind and firmness of principle. In the crisis of his life, when making that terrible journey from his childhood home in Canaan to the bondage which awaited him in Egypt, looking for the last time on the hills that hid the tents of his kindred, Joseph remembered his father's God. He remembered the lessons of his childhood, and his soul thrilled with a resolve to prove himself true, ever to act as became subject of the King of heaven. In the bitter life of stranger and a slave amidst the sights and the sounds of vice, the allurements of heathen worship, a worship surrounded with all the attraction of wealth and culture and the pomp of royalty, Joseph was steadfast. He had learned the lessons of obedience to duty, faithfulness in every station, from the most lowly to the most exalted, trained every power for highest service. At the time when he was called to the court of Pharaoh, Egypt was the greatest of nations. In civilization, art, learnings, she was unequaled. Through a period of utmost difficulty and danger, Joseph administered the affairs of the kingdom. And this he did in a manner when that owned the confidence of the king and the people. Pharaoh made him lord of his house and ruler of his substance, to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his senators wisdom. The secret of Joseph's life's inspiration has set before us in worlds of divine power and beauty. Jacob, in the blessing pronounced upon his children, spoke thus of his best loved son. Loyalty to God, faith in unseen, was Joseph's anchor. In this lay the hiding of his power.